Every country in the world is in debt. The United States now owes more than $38 trillion, the highest level in its history. The European Union carries roughly $14 trillion in debt, while Japan owes nearly $9 trillion. Even oil-rich nations like Saudi Arabia, as well as export powerhouses such as Germany and China, carry enormous amounts of debt. But here's the interesting paradox. If everyone is in debt, then who is the creditor? This is where money, power, and history intersect. And nothing is as simple as it seems. Debt is not merely a burden. It is the invisible architecture upon which the modern world has been built. Every war, every crisis, every economic boom and collapse has risen on top of this unseen framework of debt. And if you follow the chain of creditors long enough, you arrive at an unsettling truth. The world is not indebted to one particular person or one particular country. The world is indebted to itself. But that does not mean everyone benefits equally from this system. Today, total global debt has surpassed $315 trillion. That figure is roughly 3 times the size of the entire global economy. So how did we get here? To understand that, we need to go back to the very beginning. Centuries before the first credit card was ever used or the first digital payment was ever made, the idea of national debt was born not on Wall Street, but on the battlefield. In 1694, England was at war with France, and its treasury was running out of gold. The king found the solution by turning to merchants. The government promised perpetual interest payments backed by future tax revenues, and in return, the merchants financed the crown. To manage this new system, the Bank of England was established. It was a revolutionary moment in financial history. For the first time, a government could spend money it did not yet possess. In return, investors received something priceless, the government's promise. And that promise could be bought, sold, and traded. That is how the government bond, the cornerstone of the modern financial system, was born. France adopted the same model. The Netherlands refined it even further. The newly independent United States used the same system to finance both the American Revolutionary War and its westward expansion. National debt was no longer seen as a symbol of failure. Instead, it became a symbol of credibility. A government that could borrow was a government that was strong. Empires once conquered land to acquire gold. Now they issued bonds to earn interest. The battlefield was replaced by the balance sheet. Fast forward 300 years, and debt has become the world's largest export. America owes $38 trillion. Japan owes more than $9 trillion. And global debt increases by approximately $1 trillion every 100 days. Today, every country is in debt. Every bank extends credit. And through taxes, savings, and pension funds, every citizen is both a debtor and a creditor. So who stands at the other end of the chain? Let's begin with the United States. Because America's debt is not merely national. It sits at the center of a global financial system. Roughly half of America's $38 trillion debt is publicly held. In other words, it is owed not to government agencies, but to investors. About 2/3 of those investors are American banks, pension funds, mutual funds, insurance companies, and even the Federal Reserve itself. The remaining roughly $9 trillion is held by foreign investors. The largest foreign creditor is Japan, with approximately $1 trillion. China follows with roughly $800 billion. After that come the United Kingdom, Luxembourg, and Belgium. So when people say, America is indebted to China, they are not entirely wrong. But they are missing the bigger picture. Because China's holdings account for only about 2% of America's total debt. Most of America's debt is owed to America itself. The U.S. Treasury issues bonds. Banks and investment funds purchase those bonds. The Federal Reserve often buys them back, injecting newly created dollars into the financial system. Citizens pay taxes. Those taxes help finance interest payments on government bonds. And those interest payments flow back into pension funds and investment accounts. The entire system resembles a giant mirror, constantly reflecting value back into itself. The debt is real, but the creditor is often simply another part of the same system. And this cycle is not unique to the United States. Japan buys U.S. Treasury bonds, effectively lending money to America. The United States provides loans to Europe through the IMF. Europe finances developing countries through the World Bank. Developing nations, in turn, invest their foreign exchange reserves in Western government bonds, effectively lending money back to developed economies. It is like a global game of hot potato. The only difference is that the potato is made of promises. Every country holds another country's debt. Every promise is backed by another promise. It is like a poker game where every player borrowed their chips from the person sitting next to them. And the game has only one rule: no one is allowed to leave the table.